Emma, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you and great to see you again. Our paths have crossed on many occasions.
And
it's great to have you here. I'm really glad you've been able to come today. What we're starting off with the podcast with is we're just finding out how you got into group exercise. Where did it start and what brought you into it?
Yeah, so I did my exercise to music training in 2004, so over 20 years ago now, and it came from an absolute love of going to aerobics classes and step classes, and because I used to dance when I was younger, and then I stopped when I was a teenager, as you do, and just got back into going to aerobics and fitness classes, and just the endorphin hit that I used to get, it just was something that I craved. And then I started, I guess, like probably quite a lot of people do, and going, well, if I'm going to classes anyway, I may as well get paid for it. So that was the initial motivation. It's certainly not why I teach now.
I was going to say, it says every instructor who started teaching, right? I went to a class.
Yeah.
I thought I could give it a go.
Yeah. And so, I did exercise to music back in 2004. I was teaching like in local village halls and leisure centres. But back then, I felt a bit uninspired.
By what?
I was finding like music a bit boring, and I was just feeling like, it's not quite got whatever.
Your vibe.
Yeah, it didn't quite have my vibe. I actually stopped teaching for a bit, and I just was working and doing other things. And when it really took hold for me was when I moved to Birmingham and when I created my own creation.
Your creation, which is
Drum and Bounce.
Yes,
Yeah,
which is where I first got to know you, from when you started creating Drum and Bounce and came to EMD UK.
Yeah, exactly, which is brilliant, by the way, is when you're working on your own to just have a body to refer to and come to. So, yeah, that was definitely a great choice.
So tell us about Drum and Bounce. What is it? For those who don't know it.
So Drum and Bounce is dance fitness to drum and bass music. So it's your classic aerobics, but to drum and bass, which is the music which really took me when I was in my teenage years as something, it had a real visceral effect on me. And when I was in Birmingham, we'd go out to drum and bass nights and I'd be playing it at mates' houses. And one night I was at a mate's house and we had the drum and bass on, and I started teaching grapevines and hamstring curls and just doing a little aerobics routine, and was like, wow, I mean, this is brilliant. What great motivating music to keep you moving. And we just started chucking ideas around of like, jump and bass, and then we both came out with Drum and Bounce, and it was like this eureka moment. We're like, oh my goodness. And I go to a lot of music festivals, and I was at a particular one called Shambhala, and they were doing lots of dance workshops. And when I was there, I was just like, I need to create this Drum and Bounce because I could do it here. It would be perfect. And so my brother, he was DJing at the time, so he put mixes together for me. My friend whose house I was at when it first happened, he was a graphic designer, so he created some logos and stuff. And then I just put on a month of free classes for friends. I got a space, they let me have it for free just to trial it, and that was 13 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And look how it's evolved now, right?
I know.
But in your own unique way of evolving, because we have some people on the podcast where they've evolved and gone huge and stuff like that, but you've really stayed true to your Drum and Bounce. But I'm going to step back a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
Is there a music theme in your family with both you and your brother doing DJing?
I know. Yeah, we do like that. I mean, it's partying that I think initially.
Okay. I was going to say, is that what inspired it? Because there has to be, what's your roots, right? Where did Drum and Bounce come from? Yes, you love the music, but where did that music love come from?
Yeah.
Was the clubbing?
And it was parties and house parties. And I grew up in a little village in the Lake District. And when I first started going into the cities and experiencing drum and bass, you know, it would do something to me physically. So I think when these things have such an impact on you, you almost go, I've got to follow something here. And, you know, I stopped going out partying and stuff. But whenever I heard the music on the radio or, you know, to come on my headphones, I'd get this like rush. And if I was ever out running, I'd then just be sprinting to drum and bass. So I just knew it had this very special power that I experienced, and as it turns out, it obviously does for loads and loads of other people too.
Because a lot of instructors will be kind of going, how do you make the decision to come up with the brand? You know, like, where does it come from? So that's where I was trying to pull back on of going, that love merged together, didn't it, really,
Yeah.
of the music and the Group X.
And I think as well, sort of when I was going out, I'd experience drum and bass and be like, oh, there's sometimes a bit of a moodiness to it. And actually it makes me smile and it makes me laugh, and just the dancing. And so I almost wanted to bring that energy into the culture, I guess. And also the sort of, it creates these really healthy highs, these natural highs, which we know exercise does. And so matching that with the rave music and the rave scene, that like just bringing that healthy, positive, joyfulness, using drum and bass, it was just like ideal marrying for me of those two things.
What has that 13 years of drum and bounce looked like, and how's the evolution happened over the time?
Well, the wonderful thing was, a year later after creating it, I was doing it at Shambhala Festival, which is the one where I got the inspiration, and I've done it there the last 12 or 13 years since. And what that really opened up for me is the festival fitness scene. And so since 2012, I've been, my summers have consisted of being at festivals, and the stages just started to get bigger and bigger. And I've done some main stages, like opening up the main stages, because it's such a great interactive thing to do at a festival, this like collective experience and joy. So the festival circuit was something that's been huge.
How did you break into the festival and get that break in the festival? For most people who are listening to the podcast, they've only really seen it recently, where you've seen someone like Joe Wicks doing it on the main stages. But you've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
How did you get that break?
Well, Shambhala gave me it. And they just liked the sound of it. They liked the concept. So without me even doing it, they were like, yeah, it sounds great. And weirdly enough, I was at a yoga retreat years later, and I met the woman who was the one who said yes to putting it forward at Shambhala, which was the lovely like coming together. And I think once I'd done one, then I had some data, I had some evidence. I could say, look, this is how it works at a festival. So I think that always helps. And now I'm just in this lovely position where people repeat book me or, get in touch, and then doing some of the bigger stages, like holding a main stage. And once you've got some of that evidence, people know that you can hold that space.
Yeah. And what do you feel the vibe like when you're on stage there? Because it's...
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's some of my favourite memories is looking out into a festival crowd, because it's such a colourful crowd. And sometimes I got people in, loads of fancy dress and... just really, really up for it. And then I got to do bigger events, like the Commonwealth Games was at Birmingham. I got to do some big stages, and then Goldie joined in. If you like drum and bass, you know who Goldie is. So I was like, Goldie's doing drum and bounce. I mean, tick.
One of those moments again, right?
He just happened to be walking past, so it's one of them. And I collaborated with a producer, Danny Bird, and he DJ'd and I did a drum and bounce set. So moments like that are just, I love the events. I love the events.
I was going to pull out on that, because it's that element of what we do with EMD UK, help support instructors to do what they can do best and have opportunities, but also around that knock-on effect of getting participation. Now, you must see a whole genre of different people in a festival crowd than you would do who would normally rock up to your Group X classes.
Yeah.
That must be quite nice to see, kind of going like that might be their first movement or a feeling of a Group X class. Do you get many people come up to you afterwards?
Oh, yeah, loads. And I think it helps when you've got the endorphins going and everyone's like loved up and buzzing to each other. But I had a woman come up to me at a festival recently who said, and she was emotional, and she said, thank you so much, because I've got Parkinson's. And I've got quite a lot of anxiety about going to classes.
Right.
But something happened then, and I was able to do it, and I was able to move, and we both had a cry. And and I get all different ages as well, because I think coming to my class, I've got a certain sort of demographic generally, but at the festivals, all ages, I just see a sea of people in front of me that I'm like, wow, look at this, because people might just be walking past and then they get pulled in by the magnet of the music and the energy.
And what you're wearing.
Well, yeah, I do like catsuits.
Yes, we always know with Emma, she's got a catsuit on, right? And they're not dull.
No, I do like a bright catsuit.
You'll be that person in that unitard.
Jumping around.
Yeah,
it's special. It is special.
Hey, thanks for listening. Did you know that EMD UK provides Group Exercise instructors with professional support and training for less than the cost of hiring a hall for a day? Keep up with the sector, stay on top of training, and receive exclusive content at emduk.org. Now, back to the discussion. Going back to the other side of drum and bass, you still deliver education for it as well, because it became, you started out really to serve your community.
Yeah.
And it grew and got really well known in Birmingham area, didn't it, as well?
Yeah, which is lovely. And when you say education, do you mean about the licensing?
You do training, you do training and stuff like that. So you did that originally, and then you've picked it back up again recently, because I know you came through the CPD accreditation with us, which is thank you very much. How's it going for you at the moment with the education and where drum and bounce is realistically?
Yeah, well, we're about to launch in Edinburgh in January.
Wow.
And this is through a woman I met at a festival who's also a DJ. So that's really, really great. So yeah, I'm going up in January. We're going to launch. We're doing like a day party with drum and bounce fitness class, and then we're both going to do a bit of DJing. So all about like sober partying in the day, early nights. I'm all about that these days. And then I've got another woman who I think is going to be launching down the New Forest Way in January as well. So I'm really excited about that. I'm happy to just kind of roll with that and like just see how that all pans out, and then take it from there.
And do you think people are using it more for like that retreat element, or is it part of a day experience? Because we've been talking about how fitness is evolving beyond just being a class. It's an experience.
Yeah. The woman down south is looking at doing it as a fortnightly Friday night thing as an alternative to going out. In Scotland, the woman works at a university and is going to be sharing it with students and also at a gym. So yeah, it's kind of like using it in the traditional ways, but also I think that sort of healthy night out is becoming so much more popular, which is brilliant. So drum and bounce kind of fits really nicely into that area.
And now, listen, you're no stranger to us at EMD UK, because you've been one of our also trainers when we launched this Girl Can project.
Yeah.
I've been fascinated since I met you, Emma, to see all the things that you do. But I couldn't be prouder of how you're developing with your other area of work and how you've transitioned into working with your yoga side of it, because it's a very contrasting thing, drum and bounce, and you've moved into yoga and what you're doing with yoga. So can you elaborate and let the listeners know what you've been doing? Because I just think it's a fascinating story.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. I'd love to. I trained as a yoga teacher in 2017, which is a massive contrast from drum and bounce, and I guess is also part of my evolution as a human of going, I just also need to do some more chilled out things. And so yoga found me at a perfect time for that.
Was there anything that triggered you to go to the yoga pathway?
It was a bit of an accident, actually. I was never planning on being a yoga teacher. I'd gone on a retreat, really connected with the woman, Tammy, who was delivering it, really loved her style of flow yoga. She was about to deliver her first teacher training in Morocco, which I love Morocco. And she's like, why don't you come and just do the 2 weeks there as like a yoga holiday? So I thought, oh yeah, all right, that sounds great. It wasn't so much of a holiday because I don't know, for people who've done yoga teacher trainings, it's like full
200-hour.
Yeah. I mean, it was not the full course, but it was like, 5 a.m. bells, wake up. And anyway, it found me at the right time. It was obviously I needed to be there. And when I was there, some things that were going on for me in my personal life, it really shone a light on it. Mm-hmm. And the yoga really was like this support system that I found for myself, about connecting with myself. And it was really a lifesaver, actually.
Really?
It really, really was. It pulled me through a really difficult time. And I think having I'm all about having embodied experience. If I've had an embodied experience, then that's something I want to share. Not necessarily in a like, oh, it saved me, it can save you, but it's like, I know the power of it.
Yeah.
And that's something that really drives me.
Was it you just connecting with yourself again?
Yeah.
That was that game changer? Because I think sometimes especially we are brought into doing Group X and stuff, it's always giving to other people.
Yeah.
And I think you do hit that platform sometimes of going, I feel a little bit like I'm lost. And it was that little bit of time to self-reflect, which yoga does give you.
It does, and it really made me become my own best friend. I think I'd sort of been disconnected from that a bit, and it really taught me to be very compassionate and to be very like gentle and kind, and also it builds your strength in a different way, emotionally and physically, and so I think just experiencing that, I was like, wow, this is special. Alongside the higher energy stuff, it's not that I wanted to stop that, but we need balance.
It's the balance, yes.
That's what yoga's
You've got
all
yin and
about.
yang with drum and bounce and your yoga as well,
Exactly.
right? Yeah. So that took you on quite a bit, though, because to what you're doing, how did you go from then teaching it or being a student?
Yeah. Always a student.
Always
in
a student, exactly. Well, I think you're always a student in life, aren't you, realistically? But that student pathway through into teaching.
Yeah.
And then skip forward to now.
So I teach in very different settings. I don't teach in studios. I don't actually teach any public classes at the moment. I teach in prisons. So I teach in male prisons, probation hostels, one for women, one for men. I teach in a recovery centre for people who are recovering from substance misuse. I teach in a domestic abuse refuge, and I've also taught in a rape and sexual violence project. So they are the settings that I spend my time in.
For me, I want to know all about it, how did that happen? Because that's not a unique pathway or career pathway for most people to go down. And where did you find that link into it?
So for the last 15 years, up until the last couple when I've gone fully freelance, I was working in a theatre company, working in the criminal justice and social welfare settings. So I spent about 15 years travelling around the country with this organisation, with the charity Geese Theatre Company, delivering workshops, performances, all around social issues and personal development and exploring offending behaviour. And so that was my professional background. When I did the yoga teacher training, somebody was talking to me about going on some training with the Prison Yoga Project, and obviously knew about my work experience. So I was like, you might be interested in this, which I absolutely was. This charity's based in America, but they were coming over to Glasgow to deliver some training for a weekend. So I was like, I need to go. I need to go. And it was one of those weekends, I remember coming home on the train crying, you know, when you go, gee, I've got to do this somehow. But I wasn't confident in my yoga teaching at that point.
Okay.
When you're new, it takes you a while, doesn't it, to feel authentic. But I was just like, I need to
have to be doing this.
This is something I've got to follow. And then there's another charity based in the UK, the Prison Phoenix Trust, who also run training. So basically I was doing training, going to open days, information sessions, and just really gathering it all in. And then I ended up doing my second 200-hour teacher training with the Prison Yoga Project, which was during COVID. It was online with a global cohort of yoga teachers. And because it was in America, the time zone, so I was doing it in the middle of the night.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm a morning person. And I remember speaking to my mum and speaking to my brother going, this session's gone till 1 a.m. What am I going to do? But I was like, I really want to do this. And they were like, just do it. Just do it. Because it was COVID times as well. So everything was all out of kilter, wasn't it? And I'm so glad I did, because it gave me this next layer of trauma-informed yoga.
And I was going to say, what is the switch from the yoga you did to that level? Because there might be a lot of instructors out there kind of going, what is that level of qualification, or what did you have to do in order to deliver it?
Yeah.
What is the difference? What did you learn more?
Yeah, so I guess having the foundation of just yoga teaching first was great, and I'd been teaching public stuff, and so I had a bit of a handle in that respect. But then this whole other layer was exploring about how in those sessions we're trying to support the nervous system rebalancing when it gets stuck in fight or flight, the sympathetic or the parasympathetic. And in the yoga sessions, we're trying to create an experience where you get to go into both of those, but in a way, talk about sometimes like this window of tolerance, in a way that people have control over that. So it's about giving people back control as well. Mm-hmm. It's very invitational cueing. There's no hands-on assist. So this is more about how do the postures feel? How can we reconnect? How can we tune in to what feels right for us right now in our bodies?
Give us an example of the verbal cue. What you change.
Okay, so it might be we're in downward dog. Have a little adjust with your hands until it feels kind of like you're getting the right stretch in your back. Explore moving your heels just towards the ground, and if it feels right, bend the knees. You can allow people obviously to come in any postures at any time they like. In Shavasana, in relaxation, your eyes can be open or closed. You can move at any point. You know, don't feel stuck and rigid to the spot. And if you want to sit up at any point, I often play my bowl. If you want to sit up and join me and just watch the bowl, you can do that. So about giving people the autonomy to go, what do I need right now?
one of my favourites is meeting them where they're at.
Yeah.
Right? It's just giving them that space to kind of go, not having to follow.
Yeah.
That's enough. You can stop and just sit and watch.
Yeah.
Or this is what you're meant to be feeling. It's a very subtle change in the terminology, but very much more open.
Yeah. Yeah. And that you're the expert in your body. Like, you know what's best. I'm going to, it's not about being really, really open to the point where people are like, I literally don't know what I'm doing now. Because you are the teacher, you want to offer guidance. But ultimately, we want people to go, I know what's right for me. And if you've experienced trauma, you might have had that control taken away from you. So this is about giving people that space and time to feel that. But also that reconnection. So trauma can create disassociation. So what we're trying to encourage and invite is for people to feel at home again in their body.
And in their mind as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just thinking immediately, as you said, rather than lying to Savasana with your eyes closed, eyes open, if someone has gone through trauma, they might not want to close their eyes, right?
Doesn't feel relaxing.
It doesn't feel relaxing because I'm now like, where's that threat coming from? Because I can't see it coming towards me.
Yeah. So I like to deliver my sessions in a circle. And if I can, I have my back to the door so that the entry and exit points are very visible by everybody. So if anybody does come in, they can see. And also when you're in a circle, there's nobody behind you, because some of the postures in yoga can feel really vulnerable.
Yeah.
If you've got your head down on the mat, that might feel a bit much, or a downward dog. So if you've got a circle, and the wall is behind you, you know that there's nobody there.
Yes.
So we're trying to mitigate triggers. We can't know what everybody's experience is, but we're trying our best in trauma-informed yoga to not kind of aggravate things the best that we can. So, when I'm teaching in prison and stuff, I don't play music, and there's obvious reasons for that as well, but also music can really trigger. I don't burn incense in the sessions because smells can really trigger trauma. It can be a real fast track for somebody. Really
takes them straight back to a situation time.
Yeah, so it's just having an awareness on all these different things, which I just adopt that in anything I do.
I was going to say now that must affect everything. Even drum and bounce has been affecting your delivery, how you deliver on a festival stage, in a group environment. We
don't know people's histories, and it's just also how people arrive at class and their presenting behaviours could be telling you something about how they feel about being there. And also I'm really aware when anybody comes to class, the amount of barriers they could have overcome to get there. So once somebody's there, like, I want to do my utmost to help them feel, really welcomed, as safe as possible with me as the instructor. And because I'm always so impressed, like, when anybody comes to class, because there's so many other things you could be doing.
They've made a choice, right?
Yeah.
And they've made the effort to show up. And I think that goes to any instructor, whether it's working with specialist groups. It's just sometimes actually that little bit at the beginning of the class going, thank you for showing up today.
Yeah.
Just someone goes, oh, great, because that's taken me hours to get here. And I did go through that whole rigmarole of going, I won't, I can't, I'm too tired. I do. It's just, again, meeting them where they're at, of being just really aware of how you're meeting them and greeting them and creating a space that's inviting for them and safe.
Yeah, as safe as we can make it.
Absolutely. Let's go on to the great work you're doing now with the prison service and stuff, because for those of you who are listening, Emma was one of our guests at our parliamentary reception early this year.
Thank you so much.
For our social value, but she did a bit around her work, which she's been doing with drum and bounce and with her yoga. What's the changes you've seen in people with the opportunities that you're doing with delivering it? Because it must also be hard on you.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly rewarding. And it's very tangible. I can see in a class, like, somebody's shift, which is amazing. And I do get lots of sort of stories, and I've got so many anecdotes about
share them.
it.
Share them.
All sorts. I mean, I had a guy that I was working with, and his goal was to just be sober till lunchtime every day. That was his goal. And he did a yoga class, and he didn't use anything for the entire day. He had the best sleep. The next day he went to see his support worker and was like, can I get a yoga mat? Like, I've slept, I didn't use anything yesterday. And it was just like one class. And to me, those things are just absolutely incredible. I've been involved as well in a big piece of work. We're creating a yoga meditation in cell. So some prisons now have a system where there's laptops to access different material. We've been creating a course, and there's a guy who's been doing the yoga in his cell who through his addiction and mental health issues, he just doesn't leave his cell. Right. And he said it's just been an absolute godsend to do this practice in my cell and move my body, and how it's helped with his anxiety and sleep and all of that stuff. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
When we met you again in Parliament was around that you were just starting this and had the opportunities that are coming off the back of it, of developing it into this prison service so it can go, it's more than just one person and one class.
Yeah.
This is about making change across. And do you get a lot of feedback from the prison themselves about changes in people's behaviour? Because...
Yeah, I mean, we've just run a pilot. It's with the Prison Phoenix Trust, so they're the charity that have got the funding, and then I've been brought in to like create the content and work on the material. And we've just finished the first phase of one of those pilots, so we're exploring with the staff now about sort of what they've noticed. So one of the staff members, she runs a group that works with the cohort. She works with neurodiversity cohort. Okay. They're just experiencing lots of changes in terms of people's attendance and people. I think people surprise themselves when they do a class that
I was
they
going to
never
ask
thought.
About, especially men doing yoga.
Yeah.
People don't perceive men going to yoga. I know there's a lot of men that go to yoga, so don't come after me. I do know there's a lot of men, but especially in prisons, I think it would shock a lot of people to kind of go, a man in prison going in to do yoga is, you'd feel like, are they being coerced? And that change of going, I have to go, to wanting to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some demystifying of it, but there's one prison that I work at and there's over 2,000 men in the prison, and we started doing the taster classes, and I get a lot of guys coming from the gym pathway who are like, okay, I don't stretch, and so they come for that reason because the hamstrings are tight and stuff. But then I think they access something else when they're there, of like, oh, this like peace and calmness and just like chance to relax. And one guy who'd never done yoga before, and it's something I talked about in a talk I did recently, but he at the end sat up and said to everybody, well, that is the most relaxed I've felt in a decade, and I just want to be kind and gentle.
Wow.
And then he was rolling up his mat going, I'm even doing this gently. And he'd surprised himself.
Yeah, he could feel that slowing down.
He was like, almost like, what is this? What is this? And the gym manager, after some of those sessions, he said, yoga is the most talked about thing in the prison right now, which for a prison of, over 2,000 men, and they're like, I want to do yoga. And
it must be like we're going to talk about this a lot in the podcast, the ripple effect.
Yeah.
It is. And one gets it and you see one guy doing it, it's like then they talk about it and then it breaks down a barrier, right?
Yeah.
It's a perceived barrier for a lot of people.
And that's it, I think, particularly in those settings. It's not about me going in going, you should do yoga, because they're like, yeah, right, okay. But it's the guys going, no, you should do yoga, lads, because this was wicked, like how I felt afterwards. And then I'm like, they're the advocates.
And power of community, right?
Yeah, and that's how it spreads. But absolutely, I do go into places where they're like, "What? I'm not doing yoga," and I feel I like the role of going, I'm going to try and demystify this, and let's just do a session and say afterwards, honestly, how you found it, and you can be honest. I haven't invented yoga, speak your truth. Yeah, 9 times out of 10, they're like, whoa, that was great.
And that rewards you to keep going back, doesn't it, as well?
Absolutely, yeah.
I see change.
You've got to be really flexible, excuse the pun, in these settings. But you do, if I'm delivering a session and there's lots of guys who have ADHD, and so the sessions can be quite chaotic compared to, your typical studio class. But I just love working with that. And if I get some guys playing my meditation bowl, do you want to do that? And relaxation, or just being really responsive. And that is also what I do in drum and bounce. Like if I'm at festivals and I see somebody doing a move, I'm like, that's a move.
Right, take that move.
Come on stage, show it to everyone.
I remember you doing that in Birmingham. You pull people up on stage, yeah?
Yeah, I absolutely love doing that, because it's not just about me being there as the,
You're not standing at the front just for you, right?
No,
it's their
I'm
experience.
Like, you've got so much creativity out there. Let's get some of that into this routine too. And so I love collaboration. I absolutely love that, and that feeds through in my yoga classes too. And I teach at a probation hostel for women, and there's one of the women, and she's just, the way she holds the postures and everything, it's amazing. So I was like, why don't you teach a posture Why don't you do it? That's something else, sorry, about trauma-informed, is about the language that you use. So, like, we don't use pose, we use posture.
Okay.
So there are some subtle
Language changes.
changes.
Hi, have you hit that subscribe button yet? Just a reminder to tap the button so you don't miss an episode and help other instructors to listen by hitting share. Back to the studio. With the Phoenix Trust, do you have any stats around the changes that have seen? Is there any evidence that people can use and hear about?
Yeah, there is. So you can go on the Prison Phoenix Trust website, the PPT, and have a look. They've got an evidence library of all sorts of stuff. And there was a recent study, 23-24, this was in women's prisons, and they were tracking the mental well-being. So the mental well-being, this was of 40 female prisoners, rose by 84%. And those that stated high mental well-being went from 0% to 18%. Wow. And I just think that's huge. To, how many of us would say, yeah, I've got really high mental well-being. And if you're living in a prison setting and everything that entails,
how you come here, how you're living in it, yes,
yeah, and what's going on the outside, and all those factors, to then go, my mental well-being feels high right now. I just think, wow, that's amazing. Power of yoga and meditation. So the movement and the stillness and having that space. Prisons are very noisy settings, so those moments in relaxation where the nervous system can actually, if to know that the space is being held, and you can go, actually, for these next few minutes, I can close my eyes and I can just, I think that's a
big shift for them.
Yeah, really big shift. And like that man who said that's the most relaxed I've felt in decades, he'd just not experienced that. And our nervous systems need it. We need that space to just
and hope that long-term effect of what it does for a person to recognise possibly they were in fight and flight most of their life, to actually they could feel differently, is life-changing for somebody. So,
and it's like stepping into different roles, of going, I never thought I could do yoga, so if I can do yoga, what else can I do that I've always thought I couldn't? And you talked about a ripple effect. I think particularly in these settings, the ripple effect of, if you've been doing a yoga class, and sometimes members of staff join in too, the chances of you wanting to have a fight with that staff member later would say they're diminished. Yeah. If you leave that session feeling calm and relaxed, maybe you're going to have a nicer phone call with your partner. Yeah. Maybe you're going to speak to your kid a bit later and then they feel better. So then there's that ripple effect. I had a guy who'd done a few sessions and he was just about to get released, and he said, I spoke to my mum last night. She's 66 and I've told her when I get out, we're going to go to a yoga class together. Oh. And I was just like, wow. Yeah. And I wonder what that must have felt like for his mum to go, he wants to do a yoga class with me when he gets out. That warms my heart, because I think brilliant. That's ace, and that's a ripple effect of stuff that, is not about, I stretch my hamstrings. Or...
Yes, they came here with one thing and have left with so much more. Yeah. Talking of so much more. Yeah. This little lady has been on TEDx and did a TEDx talk this year. Yeah. So Emma, tell me about that. I'm so proud of you for doing it. So to standing up on stage and doing it. Yeah. I think it's one of the first few people we know in the Group X world who's actually stood up on the TEDx stand. Yeah. And it was the one in Birmingham, wasn't it? You had one in Birmingham.
Yeah. TEDx Ladywood women in Birmingham.
And that was talking around the prison work that you were doing?
It was exactly that.
So how did that come about?
Yeah. So I applied actually.
Really?
I'd seen this woman, Justice Williams, MBE. She'd done a talk. There's a group called the 51% Club, which is all about female founders. They've just launched in London. They've got one in Birmingham. I go to loads of their events. They're brilliant. I'd heard her speak, followed her on LinkedIn, and then actually it was a friend who said, have you seen they're doing applications for TEDx? So I was like, I would love to talk about this work. So I put in an application, and it was funny actually. She rung me to say I'd got it. And I was potentially going to do an event, Drum and Bounce, in France on the same day, because I'd not heard about the TEDx for ages. I thought, I've not got it. She rung me to say I'd got it, and I went, oh no. And she went, oh yes. And I was like, no, I'm going to be in France. And then I put the phone down, and I was like, gutted, but I've already committed to this event. Rang my brother. I was like, you're not going to believe this. And he went, Emma, what are you doing? Bring her back. the France thing you can rearrange. You've got to do this TEDx. So I quickly rang her back going, is it still available? Is it still available? I want to do it. So yeah, my piece was called The Long Stretch, Seeing Beyond the Labels We Carry.
Available on YouTube.
Available on YouTube, yeah. Please look it up. And so I talked about my journey into getting into this work. I talked about the work that I do, the settings I work in, some of the stories. The man who'd most relaxed he'd felt in a decade, a woman at probation hostel, her journey with yoga. And then I opened it up a bit more universally about how we see ourselves and how we see other people. And, you know, throughout all my work of working with people in prison settings, I've just been amazed and astonished by how much of the light I see in people. And I just wanted to like really share that, because often if we don't work in those settings, we see things in the papers and on the media, and we may make judgments about people who are struggling and battling with addiction or offending behaviour. And, you know, my work has always been about personal responsibility, but also about how do we treat people? Because if we want people, you know, to come out and get jobs and have positive relationships and everything like that, how do we treat people? Because if we're going to treat people and just keep them in shame, that's going to perpetuate frustration and anger. And so...
And you can see the reoffending cycle, right? Then because they're labelled and I go, that's the only way that people see me, so I may as well just go back to the cycle again.
And it's really difficult. Yeah. I mean, I'm not speaking from lived experience, but from my professional experience, it's really difficult to break those cycles. And if you come in from low income families and, you know, there's a lot of factors. And I just think if we treat each other like humans, then we're going to get the best out of people. And one of the lines I say in my TEDx talk is, you know, we are not our worst moments, we're our next best one. And I just think there's a lot of value in seeing the potential in people rather than berating people for mistakes. And, yeah.
No, that's an incredible time. And thank you so much for that today. It's been, I think, having been able to observe you as a friend as well, hopefully, from the thing, it's been great to see. And that TEDx really is a pinnacle. But the next thing is, what is next for Emma? What's on the horizon?
Yeah, well, I've always been quite an organic, flowing person. I'm not I don't have business plans and stuff like that. So we'll see in regards to the TEDx talk. I mean, it's out in the wild now, so you never know where it might go and where it might land. I'd love to sort of continue talking about that work, and obviously I'm still very on the ground, just delivering lots of work. Drum and Bounce opening up to more areas. I mean, I just met some lovely women in a cafe, and they were like, where is it in London? We want it. I'm like, okay, get instructors. So definitely want to develop that. And I don't know, maybe at some stage I might try and create some resources to support instructors who want to sort of work in these settings, and a bit more DJing.
So where can people connect with you? Again, if people want to come beyond the podcast and go, I want to speak to Emma about things, or again, opportunities, or again, Drum and Bounce training. Yeah. Where can people connect with you?
So I've got a website, so www.drumandbounce. So it's Drum and Bounce, like drum and bass, not drum and bounce. Also on the socials, Drum and Bounce, or my DJ name is Sister Smalls, so Sister Smalls DJ. I've got a radio show in Birmingham, but I'm about to rebrand, and it's going to be Find Your Happy Bass, which is about music and well-being. So I'm going to be, sharing about lots of different practices and stuff on there in the new year too.
Great. Sounds exciting. Always moving forward. And I do know you just flow. It's lovely to see you.
I'm a bit of a flower.
So at the end of each podcast, we do this one question. It's called the ripple effect. So it's how we'd like to pass the information on to somebody new starting out the sector, or somebody who's wanting to diversify into something different. So what's that one piece of advice, one tip, one trick, what could you do next to take that next step in your journey?
So I think for me, it's all about being in alignment and being authentic. So really following the things which make you spark and which you've had an embodied experience of, and following through with that, because I kind of feel with teaching, when it's authentically you, that's when people really feed off it, buy into it and go, oh, that's me too. So I think that's where you make the connection. So for me, it's about tuning into what feels really right for you, what works for you, and then that's something that you can go and share.
Great piece of advice. Thank you very much, Emma.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much for coming and joining us
Pleasure.
on the podcast. We look forward to welcoming you again, maybe in the future,
Yes.
and hearing everything. Keep doing what you're doing, making significant changes in people's lives. It's an absolute privilege to have you as a friend and someone who's worked with us at EMD UK over the years, and we hope that continues going forward as well.
Oh, thank you, Sue.
That's it from myself and Emma. Thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to follow for more stories that move beyond the studio.